Oh, Bart, you're here at the State of Open Con.
I am.
You've been doing a lot.
You too?
Yeah, everybody's been doing a lot here. So interesting vibe, right? This is different.
Very interesting vibe in so many ways, in so many senses. Having both of us, we've been at lots of different events and seen different elements that perhaps you saw in one, but then maybe didn't see in another. Getting all these things together has been really cool, and on top of it, in the amount of time that was available to organize all this.
Indeed. So out of curiosity, and this is a question that probably a lot of folks have, they don't know what conferences to go to. When you choose conferences, how do you choose?
Ooh, that's a really good question. And there are only so many conferences per year, so you have to be selective. You need to be thinking about, for me, it's really a people question. Who do I know there? And it's not that I'm only going to go if I, have a certain amount of people that are going to be there. That's going to dictate a lot around what my experience is going to be like, because conferences, yeah, you're there to learn, but you're also there to speak, to interact. And so knowing that you have a certain amount of people, which was precisely what got me into collaborating with Open UK, is, seeing some overlaps. I know some folks here, some folks there. That made it more comfortable for me. What about you? How do you decide?
So typically, I'm going to look at the audience and the type of talks that they're going to have. I want to know if it's something that I believe in, right? So if it's something that kind of fits my mindset, that's important. Or if it's something that I'm interested in, that's also important. But when it's a company event, I'm going to evaluate a company event a little different, right? So there's kind of this question of, do you sponsor, do you speak, or do you attend, right? So you've got the three levels. And, when I'm looking at attending, it's, I'm attending either because it's of an interest to me or because I think that it is in a space where it can benefit the company if I network. And then if we're going to sponsor, it has to meet a certain criteria for us. So my criteria is generally I'm going to look at the size of the crowd. I'm going to do some magic math calculations in the background to figure out if it's going to be worthwhile to talk to enough attendees or whatnot. So I go through a little bit of a different thing for each one.
I think that's good. And thinking, designing the experience that you're going to have based on those objectives, like you said, is about speaking, attending, sponsoring. So what are the things that are going to need to happen inside that conference so that those things will be reached? Obviously, from a sponsorship perspective, you need to be thinking about metrics. If it's, for a company, about, qualified leads, future conversations that are going to happen. But in the other two cases as well, too, about, attending or speaking, different things you can think about are, what do I hope to be able to do, to leverage that experience, whether it's building out something new, whether it's, discovering new things about a new technology. I think it's important to keep those things in mind. So it's not just, I'll just show up and see what happens, which is also okay. Right. But I think it's good to have a little bit of thinking about, why am I going here? Why am I giving my time, my effort to attend?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a difficult one because there's also this other thing when we talk about conference attendance, and a lot of people will want to speak but don't get chosen, and so that's one of those things that also kind of throws a wrench into things, because a lot of companies have rules around, like, we'll send you if you speak or if we've got a booth, but we're not going to just send you to attend. And so there's a lot of competition for getting talks chosen as well. That's also something you have to consider.
That's true. I think also in the post-pandemic period now, with so much event content being made available online, event organizers in some cases intentionally will not publish certain talks to give added reasons for people to attend. But I understand that people have the difficulty negotiating that inside their companies and really having to figure out the way to make the value prop. Once again, going back to design that experience, tell your boss these are the things that are going to happen, so that it's a clear offer, not just, hey, buy me a flight and a hotel room for a few days, I want to go hang out in Vegas.
Yeah, so how do you prove the value of a conference to your boss? That's a tough one, right? Because you've really got to hit some key things, and it's got to be on the technology, it's got to be on the trends, you've got to be able to say, hey, this is going to make me more productive, this is going to help me solve X, Y, and Z. And if you don't hit those things, I think that's going to make it really hard for folks to attend those conferences. I know, like, some people like going to conferences, some people hate it. I know that I've worked at some places where they have a pretty open policy, and there's some people who go to every conference possible, even if it doesn't, revolve around it. They really abuse that. There's other people who could benefit from conferences but just don't. So that's always difficult. Now, while you're here at a conference like this, you're working. You're not just like relaxing or learning. You're working. And so you're kind of like nonstop with videos and like, talking to people. It's exhausting.
It does. And I was talking to somebody about, particular like longer events like KubeCon, the recovery process afterwards and catching up with all your emails. And also because when a conference finishes, it's not to say that's when the real work starts, but it's when another phase of work starts. Well, I record a bunch of videos. They don't edit themselves. So I luckily have an editor. Bless all editors' hearts. But I got to sit with them and say, what's the visual story that we're going to be telling? The more footage you record, the more you have to go through. And it's a challenge. And, now that you say that, I rarely attend events as an attendee because it's almost always on the other side of something involved in the event production.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny. Like I love talking to people, and for those who know me, I like to chat, I like to talk, but I can tell you that at the end of a conference, I'm just so worn out. And it's not, I can just have one talk, but it's like, you're working with people, you're talking to people, you're just going. And then when you start to add in those kind of extra things like the videos or, the podcasts or the other things, it's a challenge sometimes to continue the momentum and, just like keep yourself going. So you got any tricks to keep yourself going during a conference?
That's the thing is because the energy that it takes is that maybe you talk to 10 people, maybe you talk to 100, but inside physiologically, your body is on full alert mode constantly because you're expecting that, yeah, of course, I'm probably going to be doing this and doing that. In terms of being able to make that better, find time for breaks, like block in your calendar 20 minutes, walk away from the conference center because if you're close by, chances are you probably run into somebody and they're not trying to bother you. They don't know that you need a break.
Yeah.
And so those kind of things I think are important. Here as well too, they have the quiet area. So I think that's a great thing to offer. Partially because of what you said previously, like some people just don't like attending conferences because they might find it overwhelming.
Yeah.
So accommodating all those different folks. Like I said, plan breaks, I would say it's really important. Make sure that your meals are programmed as well because you can start skipping those. Be like, oh, but it's so important to talk to somebody. Protect your time.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you record, you bring some equipment. Let's see your equipment. Bring it on camera. What are you bringing? What are you rocking?
I have to confess, and I'm going to mention this as well too in the follow-up video, is that this is my very first time actually recording at a conference because I always have somebody else who's doing that.
Oh.
And so I'm just starting to get into this and sort of upping my tech stack as well for what I'm recording in my office. This is a Sony SV1, which is pretty much, as Stephen Augusta said, grab and go. Very easy to work with. Records in 4K. And then this is, to be able to have wireless microphones with people that I'm interviewing. So this is just already set and ready to go. Then it's got to hand the person I'm talking to the mic, and we're pretty much good to go. So the idea is just to be able to do things quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so how has that worked out for you?
It's worked out well. We'll see later in the editing process.
Yeah, so we did one video earlier, and I noticed that some of the sound, there was a lot of background sound with that mic.
Yeah.
I'm gonna play around with directional mic.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes, they use them on broadcast cameras and stuff. I've seen that you can get some reasonably inexpensive ones on Amazon, so I might try that.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah. And this, for those who are podcasters or doing videos, we kind of skimped on equipment. So just an FYI for everybody who's watching.
That's why it looks so good.
Yeah, it's not as normal, like our normal thing. We're in a kind of an unnormal room. There's a lot of background lighting here and stuff. So colors might be washed out and stuff, but when you're moving and going different places, the equipment is a bear to take.
It is.
And we've got podcasters in different booths, and Emily Umair's next door, and she's got her setup, and it's like it takes half my suitcase, and so this time I tried to go as minimal as possible. So I got these lapel mics here, which I hope will work okay. But I use the PodTrack Zoom thing, which allows for 4 mics, so I can do 4 people. And I just grabbed a couple webcams for this. So, you don't need a lot of crazy equipment to get started if you want to do that type of thing. Certainly, there are a lot of options out there, but I don't know. I'm still messing with the portable stuff.
Yeah. And like you said, suitcase, I completely ditched my tripod because it was weighing a ton of my backpack, took up a ton of space. So I'm just doing everything using the Steadicam, and then I have a smaller one to be able to sit it down if I need to.
Yeah.
But I think, like you said, as someone as well too that is really new in all this, the equipment side of things can be a bit overwhelming. Just start with what you have and try to make it work, and then you can kind of figure it out from there.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm at home, I have everything set up perfectly, but I don't want to tear that down and try and bring it across country, across the world.
No.
So sometimes it's just a little bit of trial and experiment. So you see maybe Bart's camera that he's on is better than mine. The backlighting, like I said, is pretty bad with me, but this is so we can face each other. But yeah, all things we can fix. But if you are starting to do videos and stuff, realize that not everyone's going to be perfect, and that's okay. A lot of times this is just about the content and getting the content to work.
Completely agree. Some people might have a wonderful setup, but if what they have to say isn't interesting or they're not providing value to their audience, the audience can forgive a little bit of visual quality or audio quality, maybe less so. Anyway, but if you have interesting things to say and do, and interesting people that you're bringing on, the rest kind of takes care of itself.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. All right, Bart. I just grabbed Bart when he was out in the hallway. I'm like, come on, Bart, get in here, and you can sit in my mat cave. So
good.
Thanks for sitting in the mat cave.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
All righty.
All right. Take it easy.
Yep.